In an absolutely crazy turn of events, nearly 3,000 pagers belonging to the terror group Hezbollah have exploded all simultaneously. We're going to talk about what exactly is going on, but more importantly, what lessons it has for the United States. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this completely preposterous story. That's right, Hezbollah, the terror group in southern Lebanon, who's been escalating their rhetoric against Israel over the last several months, and it's looking increasingly like Israel's planning on conducting some level of military operation against them, have had their pagers blow up. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, one, pagers? And it actually makes a fair amount of sense, right? They know that Israel has a very sophisticated high-tech intelligence agency, or agencies, plural. And so therefore, they actually seem to have decided to go old school, right? Pagers can receive signals, but they don't do any broadcasting on their own. That means they're a perfect tool to get in touch with fighters. And right, in a way that cell phones aren't, right? Cell phones are very hackable and very traceable. Again, classically, if you've ever watched any true crime show, you know that they can always trace the victim's cell phone through the days of activity. And so as a security measure, a lot of Hezbollah personnel were likely issued pagers or beepers. The idea would be that it would insulate them from electronic surveillance. And while it did, it also apparently turned them into bombs. So the attack was highly unusual. The Lebanese government, of course, blamed Israel, examining all the facts, available data, and information about the heinous attack that took place this afternoon. This is a statement from the Lebanese government. We hold the Israeli enemy fully responsible for this criminal aggression. Now, the Israeli military didn't say one way or the other, but they have in the past used exploding cell phones as another tactic. Now, one U.S. official who wasn't authorized to speak publicly said Israel informed the U.S. they carried the attack after it was over. Right? The thing that is strange, there's a couple of things that were strange about this. The first is that the pagers, while they seem to have wounded a lot of people, it's not clear what the ultimate military objective was. The reason I say this is because these pagers going off, while they wounded a lot of people and were certainly harmful and killed 8, killing 8 people and wounding 3,000 or 4,000 is not really that effective a weapon system. While in most cases there were a lot of injuries, it seems like, just based on the fact that it doesn't seem like these were like a grenade planted inside the pagers. These are small explosives. And so the result was more light wounds than anything else. So then you're left with this real question of why? Like, yeah, I get it. It was a pretty big flex, and that may actually be part of the strategy. But before we talk about exactly why the Israelis did this, I want to say that if you feel like you need to reach out and really energize yourself, you don't need to have a lithium-ion battery explode. Instead, you may be better off with just a little bit of caffeine. That's why you want to check out Strike Gum. Strike Gum, we just rolled out our subscribe and save option with free shipping on all free domestic shipping on all subscription orders. So if you're a Strike Gum fanatic and you want to reorder anything over $40, right? That's 2 of the 5 packs. It's going to get you free domestic shipping, right? It's the zero sugar energy drink alternative. If you're tired of energy drinks that leave you feeling like you're going to crash, and you're tired of hauling around overpriced energy drinks that taste like cough medicine, Strike Gum's for you. That's why I designed it. I was tired of drinking energy drinks in the military. I said, listen, there's got to be a better way to get your caffeine. So I worked with a manufacturer right here in the U.S. to take all the caffeine of a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, concentrate it into a single piece of gum. It's superior in every way, right? So check it out, strikegum.com. Link is in the description. Okay, let's talk about the why. The why is the more interesting question here. I think there's 2 reasons. The first is as a message, right? Hezbollah's rhetoric has been ramping up. Israel really feels like there's a good chance it may have to divide its military to combat both Hezbollah in the north and Hamas in the south. And so as a result, they need to intimidate. They need to tell Hezbollah that this will be a one-sided affair, that their fighters are deeply at risk, and that they've misassessed that the Israeli military and intelligence apparatus is highly capable of targeting them. And so by using this kind of exploding beepers, yeah, it's likely going to, it injured a lot of folks, but more important is that it sent a message. It said to everyone who has these beepers, because remember, if you're not a member of Hezbollah and you're not being targeted by the Israelis, it's probably not a problem that you probably don't need a beeper, right? So, the fact that these individuals had these beepers sends out a message from the Israelis. It says, listen, if you're a member of Hezbollah, we can find you and we can hurt you, right? To a man, to a person. And that is the real message here. I think the other aspect is that the pagers are used for communication, right? They're to alert other fighters that when something is happening, right? They're likely some kind of readiness or alert system that when they receive a certain type of message, the fighters know that it's time to get into positions or report to their command or something like that. And so by taking out every one of these pagers, you have briefly damaged the Hezbollah alert system. You've damaged their communications. And usually, though, when you take out a communication system like this with this extensively, you do so hours before launching a major attack. So it'll be very interesting to see if this is a precursor to a larger attack. But there's also a lesson for the larger military, the universe, right? Trevor Ball, former explosive ordnance disposal tech for the U.S. Army, said he believes that explosives must have been planted in the pagers. Again, I maintain that you can do the same thing by overheating a lithium-ion battery. Pagers supposedly have a small amount of high explosives that were remotely initiated, and the widespread nature of the pagers exploding indicates that the supply chain of the pagers was compromised at some point. And that, I think, is one of the biggest lessons here for Western militaries, is that a lot of times we sit there and we go, oh, there's a perception that, it's not a big deal. We spend a lot of money on high-tech equipment, and that's because we make it almost always here in the U.S. or in other trusted allies countries. And it drives up cost a lot. But there is a reason, right? And that reason is because the U.S. military's adversaries are very much willing to insert these kind of compromising aspects to technology, right? And these beepers, again, probably got compromised deep in their manufacturing process. And more importantly, if the beepers were compromised with actual explosives, or again, I think some kind of firmware that caused the battery to overheat and explode, who knows what surveillance or bugs are in sophisticated software or in hardware. And that's one of the reasons why the Defense Department has what they call a blue list. And a blue list is a list, in this case, of drones here that show drones that are made with U.S. parts and or approved parts. Because again, while Chinese drones would be a tenth of the cost, as Ukraine knows, Ukraine is not in any grave danger from China. China ostensibly is neutral in this war, while they are willing to share some level of intelligence. It seems like both sides are buying the DJI drones. Not so. If China knew that they could get malicious code into U.S. systems, they would absolutely do so. It's in fact one of the reasons Raytheon was recently fined over $200 million, because they were found to not only be leaking sensitive military tech to Chinese and Iranians, but that they were sourcing parts from unapproved sources, which is code for China, Russia, and Iran. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to the Colonel tier members of CombatVetNews.com, like Bill Collier, Robert Colburn, Gaius Martin, Gina Cuesta, Chris Gorsuch, Franz Zacharias, L90, and Petra Tororu, as well as all of our Lieutenant tier members. I couldn't do this without you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.